association will ultimately define
what you ultimately the mic is on, so that we don't. Okay.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to briefly take you through what 6 billion people in this world fear the most. Public speaking. In fact, there are people that would rather die than stand like I'm standing here to speak. But here's a more concrete, maybe closer to home reality. In 2022, 2023, 33,000 people officially divorced. So those are the ones that went to court and they divorced legally. It's how you do everything else, even outside talking. Every day you are communicating. At home, at work, with your colleagues, with your friends. In fact, if someone else was to ask you to tell them about a movie that you watched, the level on how well they get interested in that movie would be how well you communicate that movie. Those of us that grew up in times when there were less televisions, you'd rely on a good storyteller to tell you about a movie. In fact, if someone else wants to jump and say, no, let me tell them, no, they say, no, let this guy be the one to tell us. Because he would paint the picture. In fact, some of us watched football via radio, as long as it was Dennis Liwewe commenting. Because he would give you that picture, it almost feels as though you're actually watching the match. But the man is just commenting. There's a way he would comment. Communication today is said to be one of the most powerful skills. In fact, it's called a soft skill. And every job, for those of you that work, every job, on one of the skills, it has a requirement for you to be a good communicator. They'll put it in different ways. They would say, be able to be a team player. They would say, someone who has good verbal and non-verbal communication skills. They would say, someone who has good interpersonal and intrapersonal communication skills. They'll put it in so many ways, even if your job is to make chairs, you need to communicate. Because if a client comes to you and say, I want such a design, whether they will buy that design or not, or whether they will like it, or whether you will understand what they have said, is dependent on how they communicate and how well you communicate the feedback to them. So there are 5 or 6 basics that I'll take you through in the next 15 to 20 minutes that are a must-have. If you have those, you're guaranteed as a good foundation for public speaking and communication. LinkedIn actually has said 75% of promotions do not come from your level of competence in terms of what you've studied, your level of degree and whatnot. It comes from your ability to communicate. 75%. That's an A. In fact, in some schools, that's an A+. So, if you have competence, you have the degrees, you graduated distinction, and yet you can't effectively communicate, you'll be missing out on opportunities. I studied development studies and population studies from the University of Zambia, and I've only used that qualification for 9 months. And these are the 9 months when I remained to teach at the University of Zambia as a tutor. Later on, I was gotten by EcoBank to do business development. I am not a business development expert. But because of how I was able to communicate myself, I mean, they got a lot of us, but there was something about what they were looking for. They were not looking for what you studied, they were looking for, can you express yourself? And since then, I have changed jobs, and they are all in business development, sales, leadership, supervising and managing. None of all I have studied. In fact, I've just concluded studying my master's in corporate communication at the University of Zambia, pending graduation. I'm not in communications in terms of my role is not communications or PR, but I do understand that the way you see things and say them has an impact on how they are received. Basic number 1 is eye contact. Now, the psychologists have said, if you're talking to someone and you look at them, There are two things that are happening from your end, the one who's looking, and the one who's being looked at. Number one, from the looker, you can easily tell when someone is telling a lie. When they look at you.
They're not professional liars.
Yes. So you can easily tell when someone is lying. How? The size of the pupil constricts or dilates based off what someone is saying. If they ask you, where were you yesterday at 19 hours? And you say, I was at home, while you are maintaining good eye contact, then the interrogator can determine you've not told me the truth. And then they'll say, I'll ask you again. Tell me the truth. Where were you yesterday at 19 hours? And you insist, I was at home. They'll say, now let me ask you one more time. Tell me the truth. When you say the truth, the size of the pupil changes. Then they know you've told them the truth.
You are speaking with big words. What is a pupil? Because as we are teachers,
All right,
we are thinking about the learner.
So in context, the pupil is that black thing in the eye. So the size becomes bigger when you are telling the truth or when you are excited about something. But it becomes smaller when you are lying or when you are scared about something.
We'll be paying attention now.
Yes, pay attention. And that's why girls would go like, look at me and tell me that you don't love me. And someone would go and look at them and say, no, you're not the one. In fact, it's not you, it's me. You know, you deserve something. The point is, when you maintain good eye contact, you are able to tell who's lying. And manipulators have used that trick to create the positive effect. Number two, on the person who's being looked at, or the one that you are looking at, people feel special when you're talking to them and you're looking at them. So even if what you are saying is bad news, and you look at them, they'll be like, but at least he looked at me. In fact, people believe when you can maintain eye contact that whatever it is that you are saying is true. But how long should you maintain eye contact? Because when it goes beyond a certain mark, you are staring. You're not maintaining good eye contact.
Yeah, divided.
So in communication, we say you must maintain eye contact between 3 and 5 seconds. Anything other than that is staring, you are stalking, you are weird, you are looking for something more than what you are talking about. So when you lock eyes with someone, maintain 3 to 5 seconds before you move to the next person. When we used to do debates, they used to tell us, just look at people's foreheads so that you don't look at them and you are scared. But you see, that's not an effective way of keeping eye contact. You who I'm talking to, I'm in front here, so you can see me. And you can tell when my eyes and your eyes, they lock. You can tell whether I'm looking at you or not. Now, if I'm talking and I seem to be looking at you, but I'm not, you will start asking questions. Is he even sure about what he's talking about? So, to avoid that, to avoid people doubting what you are talking about, look at people. Maintain good eye contact, 3 to 5 seconds before you switch to the next person. Now, people that have studied and that do magic, they actually say, when someone is doing magic, let's say with this pen or with the marker like this, they want to get the audience to look, not to look at the marker, but to look at them. So they will draw the audience to themselves, so that the audience doesn't see what they've done with the marker. By the time they review what they've done, the audience is like, wow, that's amazing. Meanwhile, it was a simple trick that they use, which if you were focusing on the marker, you'd have seen what they changed, or that, there was actually another marker here when they did this, and it came out, it wasn't that they just duplicated. So great magicians, they draw people to themselves.